What's up, Archons? I'm Flightless Pheasant, and today, or more specifically yesterday, we got an update to the Master Rulebook and the TRG for the KeyForge game. And we've been expecting this update. It includes the updated banned and restricted list for the Alliance format, as well as new rules updates that have to do with prophetic visions, and at least one notable errata. I've read through the Cliff Notes version of the changes, but I kind of want to spend a little time going through it in more detail with everybody. And let's dive into this. Let's take a look. Let's see what they've got for us. So, the KeyForge Master Rulebook is the comprehensive rules of play for the game of KeyForge. It is the game's most authoritative source and contains a detailed glossary, official errata, frequently asked questions, and a timing chart. It is primarily a reference document to help players find answers to specific questions. We update this rulebook periodically as new card sets are released and as new questions arise about how to resolve various card interactions that occur during games. Note that if you're new to KeyForge, the best way to learn to play is the Learn to Play video and the tutorials. Yeah, don't dive right into the Master Rulebook. The Master Rulebook is for later, when you're kind of digging into deeper questions or trying to find an answer for how a specific interaction works. This update includes various changes, such as card errata for Amber Skies card, glossary updates for several interactions, as well as new glossary additions. A new card errata has been added for Missile Officer Myers. I know a lot of people were wanting that. New glossary entry, this includes Fulfill and Prophecy, the new card effects for Prophetic Visions. Updated FAQ entries, which includes Dantius and Bump in the Night. And updated glossary entries for Leaves Play / movement between zones and KeyForge set icons, because there's of course a new set, which means new set icons. Tournament rules and guidelines update. The official KeyForge tournaments are governed by our tournament rules and guidelines, which is receiving a new update. Store championships, vault tours, national championships, and the world championships will all use the tournament rules guidelines. The TRG does several things. It describes all of the roles at a KeyForge event, outlines a code of conduct to which all participants must adhere, specifies the materials players must provide to participate in a tournament, provides guidelines for judges and other tournament officials, and defines all KeyForge tournament formats. This update includes an update to the restricted lists. The Alliance restricted list has been updated for the 2025 season. We'll take a look at that for sure. We're not going to skip on it. Also, I did kind of peek already. All the changes are highlighted in red, so even I'll know what's new. Yay! Tournament legality section added. We've added a new section to the TRG that references deck legality for official tournaments. You can read the updated tournament rules and guidelines by following the tournament format page. You can see the updated Master Rulebook by visiting the link below. We'll continue to watch events, listen to feedback of event staff, and monitor the community as we evaluate possible future changes. Okay, so we're going to dive into this. But before we do, I want to address something real quick. I'm sorry you guys haven't heard from me in a while. My computer is a brick right now. I'm working on getting it fixed, but in the meantime, news updates are about all I really feel comfortable doing on my little travel laptop, which is what I'm on now, which is why the quality might not be quite what you're used to, and there's no background. So I apologize for that, but I do have more content planned and coming. I just need to get my computer up and running again, and I can salvage most of my files. That's not the problem. It's just the actual computer itself is not working, and so I'm trying to get a new one. And once I have the new one and it's all set up, I've got content on the way. And I apologize for the radio silence. I honestly thought you'd get this update sooner because I thought they would give us this rules update sooner. But here we are. So now you guys know what's going on with me. And you'll still hear from me. So we're going to bop over to the rules page. You'll see this is actually a relatively new layout for this page. And it has the video tutorial, the Learn to Play, and the Master Rulebook. I've already opened the Master Rulebook. So we're going to bop over to the tournament rules, or no, not tournament rules. Here we go, the Master Rulebook. And we're just going to scan for red text, because we're going to assume that if you're watching this, you've been through this document once or twice before, and so you already know most of what's already there. So we're just going to look for red text, and we're going to see what's new. So it says actions. Actions are one of the basic card types in the game. When an action card is played, the active player reveals the card, resolves the card's playability, and after resolving as much of the ability as possible, places the card in its owner's discard pile. Related topic, playing cards. I'm sure whatever changed there was relatively minor because that's pretty much how I've always read it. And generally, when I read one of these and the red text looks basically the same as I always read it, it means there was some very minor edge case that they were trying to hedge against. Okay, here's the first one that's really new, and that has to do with the prophecy cards. This is fulfill. After the condition on a prophecy card has been met, the prophecy is fulfilled by the active player. The active player resolves each card under that prophecy. If any of those revealed cards have a fate ability, the active player chooses a card with a fate ability and follows the instructions of the fate ability. If there are multiple fate abilities on the cards revealed by fulfilling a prophecy, the active player chooses the order in which the abilities resolve. The active player makes all necessary decisions for resolving the fate abilities. Okay, 3 things that stuck out to me there. First, they make it sound like it's very possible to have multiple fates under a single prophecy, which is something we've gone back and forth on repeatedly. Hopefully, there'll be somewhere here in the Master Rules where it talks about how you bring a prophecy into play and how you put cards underneath it that will clarify whether or not you can have multiple fates under a single prophecy, which I hope that you can, because it really feels like that could be a good thing to do to kind of thin your deck out a little bit. And also, it makes your opponent fulfilling prophecies something they want to do sooner rather than later, because they don't want a whole bunch of cards underneath the prophecy when they finally fulfill it. Second thing that stands out to me there, active player makes all choices. That's consistent with all the rules of KeyForge, but it's worth noting that you as the person who put the fate under the prophecy will not get to make the choices related to how the fate resolves. Your opponent will, because they'll be the active player when it resolves. Third thing that stands out to me is there's nothing here that specifies that a prophecy can only be fulfilled can only be fulfilled on your opponent's turn, which means it might be possible with some of the prophecies that I've seen, like the one that says each time your opponent draws a card, you put a counter on it, and after they draw 10 cards, the prophecy is fulfilled. It might be possible for your prophecies to actually backfire on you, which would be kind of interesting, but also sort of scary. All right, let's poke along and see what else we can find. Fortunately, this red text is pretty easy to find. Leaves play, see moves between zones. So Leaves play has no longer got its own entry. It's been... Okay, movement between zones is basically just the Leaves play entry. But it says when a creature with amber on it leaves play, the amber is placed into the opponent's pool. If a non-creature card with amber on it leaves play, the amber is returned to the common supply. It also has a few other little changes, like when a card moves from any zone to an out-of-play zone, so it now says any zone. I think that bit has to do with how prophecies move in an inactive zone. Yeah, nothing here wildly shaking things up. They just kind of moved it around and clarified wording, which they do that sometimes, and it's good. It's good to keep up on that. Here we go. Prophecy. Okay, hopefully this will give us the answers to some of those questions I was asking earlier. Prophecy cards are a special card type, which are included with some KeyForge decks. Prophecy cards are double-sided. Each side of a prophecy card has a different condition that fulfills the prophecy. During each turn, the active player may take one of their unused prophecy cards and place it face up near their play area. After placing the prophecy card, they put one card from their hand face down under the prophecy. No more than one card may be placed under a prophecy card this way. Okay, but maybe there's other ways to get more under there? The active player can only place one prophecy card each turn. Once a prophecy card has been placed, it remains face up until its condition is fulfilled. Once the condition on a prophecy card has been met, the active player fulfills the prophecy. Prophecy cards and cards under prophecy cards are not considered to be in play. Okay, so that makes it sound like you can't have more than one card underneath a prophecy. I guess they're just hedging their bets that there might be a weird way to do it, or maybe they know there's a card in the set that can put more than one card under a prophecy, because this makes it sound like the only way to get a card under a prophecy is when you put the prophecy out into play. I don't know if I love it, but we'll see. Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's fine. Let's keep scrolling, see what else. It looks like it's mostly just changes related to prophetic visions, which is typical for the rules update before a new season. Yeah, so it's all just prophetic vision stuff. There are some new card erratas we're going to go through. So here's the Missile Officer Meyer card errata. This is the one everybody really wanted to know. So it says deploy, play/after reap, resolve the play effect of a neighboring creature as if you had just played it. And its scrap effect says you may play one card that is not of the active house during your turn. Okay, so this is important because it no longer lets you play an action from your discard. Or return an action from your discard to your hand, or whatever it was that it did before. Basically, it can no longer infinitely combo with Interdimensional Rescue, which is perfect. That's what we wanted. No infinite combos in KeyForge, please and thank you. I don't know if there's any other new card erratas. Looks like no. I know there's a couple of new FAQs, so we'll scroll through till we find those, because they talked about that there were a couple of FAQs. And those can be worth looking at. Let's see. Card-specific FAQ. Bump in the Night. I'm haunted. I play Bump in the Night. I deal 2 damage to an enemy creature, destroying that creature. I make a token creature. Since I'm haunted, how much of the effect do I repeat? Okay, so Bump in the Night's ability tells you to repeat the preceding effect. You repeat the entirety of the play effect before the text providing the instruction to repeat. So you'll deal 2 damage to an enemy creature, and then if that enemy creature is destroyed, make a token creature. Yeah, absolutely. So that's always been the case with so there's a difference between repeat the preceding effect and repeat this effect. Repeat this effect just repeats until the condition no longer is met. Repeat the preceding effect repeats everything before the most recent period, basically. Or, everything before the most recent period. So you won't get to cycle it over and over and over again. You'll only get to do it one extra time, which is a good ruling to keep in mind for repeat the preceding effect versus repeat this effect. And then the other one is Barentodontis. Should Barentodontis have a trait? Yes, the missing dinosaur trait was a printing error. Okay. Barentodontis, I didn't run into this card, but apparently it had no trait. It should have the dinosaur trait, and it does. So, moving forward, know that it has the trait dinosaur. Alright, we're going to scan through the rest of this, but I don't think there's any other changes to this document. Which, it's very straightforward. Very minimal changes. Nothing crazy. Oh, yeah, the only other change is that they're going to have added Prophetic Visions deck icon and deck section. No changes to the timing chart. Alright. The other one we're going to bop over to is the tournament rules and guidelines. Some of you will have been waiting quite anxiously for this bit. So we'll go into it. It will have the new restricted list for Alliance, and I think that might be the only change. Because I think everything else is still the same for the tournament rules and guidelines on how tournaments actually work. Yeah, the only change is to the Alliance restricted list. So let's take a look at the Alliance restricted list. So, the new things that have been added to the Alliance restricted list are Heart of the Forest in any number, Jervy in any number, Key Abduction limited to 1 per deck, and Winds of Death in any number. Now, it's important to remember that the way the restricted list works is if you have any card that's on the restricted list, in whatever number you can have it in, you cannot have any other cards that are on the restricted list in any amount. So this has basically made Winds of Death and Key Abduction mutually exclusive in Alliance. Which, I don't play Alliance, but Winds of Death, Key Abduction is pretty oppressive in Archon. So, I imagine in Alliance, it's ridiculously oppressive. Probably a good thing. Again, I don't really play Alliance. I'm a little bummed that there was no errata that would affect Archon to make Winds of Death Key Abduction less stupid. Because getting Winds of Death Key Abduction in an Archon deck is super duper easy, and there's tons of them out there. There's got to be like 100 or more on decks of KeyForge that are just Winds of Death Key Abduction. And that's really oppressive. And although Amber Skies and Tokens of Change did make Grim Reminders work for it a little harder, Grim Reminders was still really overrepresented at the top tables of Archon at KeyForge Celebration. Now, part of that is because Worlds was going on and most people were playing the deck they qualified on for Worlds. I think they had to, but I don't remember. Maybe they didn't. Either way, a lot of people were playing the decks they qualified on for Worlds. And I realized that the Open Tournament was won by a Amber Skies deck. But if you look at the top 8, there's still a ton of Grim Reminders there. And they're still basically running Key Abduction, Winds of Death, Junk Restoration, and the Mars guy who lets you get a card back from your discard and put it in your archive. Like, even though there's more archive hate around and it's kind of making them work a little harder for it, Grim Reminders is just too reliable. They're just too reliably able to pull off their shenanigans. And I really feel like an errata was probably needed. I guess we'll see. If we go into this Archon season and we're still seeing 4 out of the top 8 being Grim Reminders, that will tell me that the errata was needed and we didn't get it. But if we don't, then maybe I'm overreacting and I just am frustrated with Grim Reminders' power level. Maybe that's just all it is. I'm going to double check that there's no other changes to the other formats. Oh, okay, so they did say they added a tournament legality section. Ghost Galaxy will issue updates to tournament supporting documents when rules need to be updated. KeyForge is also an expandable product line, which will see the release of new products in the form of new KeyForge deck sets. Any changes to this document or the Master Rulebook will take effect 14 days after the release of the document unless otherwise stated by the relevant documents. Okay. All right, so these won't kick in until February 13th, which is still well before Store Champs. Right? No. Yes, yeah, it is. My bad. Oh my god, I had a moment of panic. But no, it's well before Store Champs, because Store Champs are end of February, beginning through March, so we're fine. And the following sets are tournament legal for official organized play, so they've officially listed the legal sets, which you'll notice does not include Unchained or Menagerie, but I'm pretty sure it includes everything else. So, yeah, because there's Discovery, and there's more Mutation, and there's the Vault Master. So yeah, it includes everything else. So yeah, that is everything. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me to talk about this. I'm hopeful that I will have my computer up and running again sometime next week. If not, it might take a little longer. So I will still do news updates if there are news updates to do, but it's going to be kind of janky. This is kind of going to be the format. I apologize. Quality will dip a little bit, but it's like when I'm traveling. It'll be the quality I have when I'm traveling, so it's not, wholly unfamiliar. Sorry I couldn't put this out yesterday. I'm busy on weekends. I can't do stuff as quickly if it comes out on a Friday as I can if it comes out on a Monday through Thursday. So just is what it is. But that's all I have for you today. So until next time, later, Archons.